Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And this guy's been on 6 times. It's been a while though since we've had him on.
We have been, has been a while.
It's been a long
Andy
time.
Coates is our guest today, who you will meet in just a few minutes. And this is a show that you and I have wanted to do for some time. It deals with the legacy of excellence and professionalism, and there's nobody that exemplifies that any better than Andy Coates, and all the service that he's rendered. Every place he has been, he has rendered exemplary service, and when he left, the place was better than it was before he got there.
Yeah,
and he leaves that kind of mark on people. And we just wanted today to do a show about the life and times of Andy Coates, which is fun, it's funny, but it tells a big message about service.
Yeah, it certainly does. And we'll have Andy Coates on today's edition of The Verdict right after this.
One of the reasons why I moved to Rockaway is because it's such a diverse culture and different ethnicities. And my camera has opened some doors to really meet people that I probably wouldn't have gotten to meet without it. I'm Beth Perkins, I'm a professional photographer, and I'm Chickasaw. It came in as like a mini tidal wave. Everything sustainable had just disappeared in one swoop, and I just underestimated this power, and I realized really how little we are in this whole scheme of things and how quickly things can go bad. My community is still rebuilding, and for them to just show up out of the blue and just start clearing out my house was, I'm not one that likes to ask for help. So for someone to come and do that for me it was really touching and humbling. I've thought about the history of the Chickasaws and what they went through as far as relocating and losing their homes and having to rebuild and to thrive in the end after all of that is just a true testament to the Chickasaw strength. And I try and draw from that and remember that that's a part of who I am.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
What a personal privilege it is for me to introduce to you again my partner, my friend for half a century, Andy Coates. Andy is Dean Emeritus of the University of Oklahoma College of Law, did his undergraduate and law work at the University of Oklahoma, and won every honor there was to win in both those endeavors. He's a U.S. Navy vet. He was in private practice for many years here in Oklahoma City and is still from time to time involved in such activities. He has been the mayor of Oklahoma City. He's been the district attorney of Oklahoma County. He's been the dean of the University of Oklahoma College of Law. And as I said in the open, every place he's been, when he left, it was better than when he got there. He is a contributor. He's a giver. He's a wonderful guy and a wonderful sense of humor, and now this will be long enough that we can close the show, I guess. But Andy, glad to have you back.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, you've had trouble keeping a job.
I have. I've had to move around a lot. If you don't stay very long, the people won't catch up with you. You know, you get a chance to do good and go away.
Yeah. Well, Kent said something in there though that stuck with me, and that was it was better when you left than it was when you got there. So when you took on one of these tasks, whether it was district attorney or mayor or dean or whatever it is, do you have to go in and kind of ascertain what the situation is? I mean, is there a time period where you're just trying to figure out what the culture is where you are?
Part of success in life is not what you do, it's who you follow. And in the district attorney's office, I came in after Curtis Harris had it for 12 years, and they were still writing out writs in ink like they did in Charles Dickens' time. And then I was, of course, very fond of Patience Ladding, but she'd had the job for a long time, and things had gotten very quiet, and so it was most of the things we were able to do brought on a new look, and it took maybe the worst time in the history of the city, but it looked good, and certainly that was true with the College of Law. admission status was threatened by our situation in the previous times with our accrediting agencies, the American Association of Law Schools and the ABA section on legal education. We're both really down on the law school, and David Boren didn't tell me some of those things when I came in. It came as a big surprise, and when I became dean, he laughed about the fact that he wouldn't return my phone calls. He just gave it to me and went away, you know. So thank you very much, and it was grateful. But you know, he does, and I do think a lot because of those circumstances. I think I was able to contribute to the betterment of the places in which I was assigned.
What about surrounding yourself with good people? Is that true, or is that worthwhile?
It not only works, it's the best thing that generally a lazy person can do. But if you can get really good people to do it, well, you work yourself out of a job. And I was able nearly always to find really first-class leaders in various aspects of the job to bring them in and have them do great things for us. I brought in Larry Joplin and Arlene Joplin at the time to become leadership in the DA's office, and that was wonderful. And I was able to hire several other really first-class prosecutors, trial lawyers, to come in and be the lead prosecutors. I did have some help in the mayor's office to find some folks that were helpful and to get some more malleable council members than I had when I first started. And of course, that was really true at the dean's office. I had to do an almost full-scale change of staff, and I did it gradually and did it gracefully, hopefully, without making anybody feel too bad. But we needed change, and I think you touched on it, Mayor, when you say that how you do the job depends a lot on who you have helping you do that job, and that they have the same vision of what the results ought to be as you do.
Andy, one thing that we only touched on in passing, but I know has been a very significant part of your life, has been your work as a trial lawyer in the courtroom. Now, there are trial lawyers and there are trial lawyers. We are talking about a trial lawyer that may represent the largest corporations in the world and the smallest indigent person who's wrongfully accused or rightfully accused of a crime. Andy's done it all, but he has held a position that no other Oklahoman has held, and I didn't put it in the intro because I wanted to bring it up separately, but he's the only Oklahoman to ever hold the position of international president of the American College of Trial Lawyers, which most would agree is the most elite organization of people who actually go into the courtroom in the world, anywhere. And Andy's the only Oklahoman to be president of it. Talk about your experiences in the American College.
But people have to understand, it's not the quote trial lawyers that got beat up in the newspapers every day. That's the plaintiffs' advocacy group. American College is, I think, the most, as you suggest, the most elite. You have to practice law for 15 years, trial law. You have to have been nominated by one of the other fellows of the college. You can't apply for it, you can't inherit it, you can't buy your way into it. It is truly, truly an extraordinary and very amazing group. Every member of the Supreme Court of the United States is the only group in the world that every member of the Supreme Court of the United States is a fellow of the American College, as are the law lords of England. I mean, it is, and the Chief Justices and Justices of Canada. It is an extraordinary organization, and I was privileged to come in while I was district attorney. I was trying a lot of cases in those days, and so I was able to be nominated and come in, and then I served as state chair for a couple of years, and then became a regent, which controls the 10th Circuit area, and then later in '96 became president of the college, which was a wonderful, wonderful job. It was a very taxing job because we had to fly out somewhere on Thursday every week and end up coming home Sunday night and get ready to take it on the next day, because the president of the college visits the fellows in the other states around the country, and then also Canada and also some in the United Kingdom. So we traveled a lot, but it was extraordinary because the people that we met were all fellows of the college who are quite extraordinary. I might point out that our colleague Kent Myers was selected some years ago as a fellow of the college and deserved it. But it was a wonderful opportunity to have some impact on our judicial system, because the members of the court and the members of the great committees that do civil procedure are composed of and listened to the views of the fellows of the college, because we speak with a balanced voice. We speak with a voice that's fair for both plaintiff lawyers and defense lawyers, for both prosecutors and criminal defense lawyers. Deal with those issues which are central to the administration of justice for everybody. And it was an extraordinary experience, and I still, as a past president, still continue to go to the meetings, and past presidents are involved in the leadership still of the college, so it's kind of a lifetime appointment. But it's very interesting, and I think was a high point, one of the high points of my life. And around here, nobody knows about it or cares about it or understands what it is. It doesn't matter. It is on the grand scale. It was, a matter of great significance.
Well, membership is pretty limited, is it not?
It is.
It isn't something that's widely.
No, you can never be more than 1% of the lawyers in any state, and mostly it runs down to being about 1/2 of 1%. So it is extraordinarily rare that anybody gets to be involved. And from a skinny kid from Oklahoma to get to be the president, why, that's big medicine.
Well,
yeah.
Talk about growing up in Oklahoma City. What was it like for you?
Well, it was fun. I had my grandparents were here. Both sets were here at that time, and I had a lot of cousins, and it was a great family relationship. I'm named from my grandfather. I'm actually Andrew M. Coates II, and my father's father was Andrew M. Coates, and he was a very well recognized leader in Oklahoma City, one of the top traditional elders at the Baptist Church. He and his bunch went out and left First Baptist and went out and founded Trinity Baptist over on 23rd Street, but it was a very happy time growing up. I lived on the west side of town for a while, and then my dad was gone during World War II. He was an anti-submarine officer on destroyers in both the North Atlantic and then in the Pacific, and so when he came back, we moved into an apartment house on 16th and Youngs Boulevard, and I went to Hawthorne Grade School for a while. And then,
as did I.
And I remembered that, and your brother was there when I was there. Yeah. And then to Taft for a little bit, and then we moved out northeast. They were just building houses for the first time right after World War II out northeast, and I went to Northeast High School from the 8th grade on all the way through it. Northeast Oklahoma City was like a small town in those days. 23rd Street was our main street, and we had our regular battles against Central and Classen and Capitol Hill, and sometimes they got a little rowdy toward the end of the evening or after the game, but it was a good bunch, and I think the high school education that I got really helped me a lot throughout the college and law school days. It was a great time. Played, we were the first group to start playing YMCA baseball, and I was a Hawthorne gorilla, and it was a great time. I had a very happy childhood, I think. I felt very much supported by my family and cousins.
And we're going to take a break, come back, and we'll get into your college days at the University of Oklahoma. Andy Coates is our guest today on The Verdict.
Energy production, environmental stewardship. They both matter. That's why every little detail matters in oil and natural gas production.
Oklahoma's producers are installing no and low bleed valves at well sites and gathering stations that significantly reduce emissions.
In fact, just one can cut the emissions equal to that of 9 cars. Learn more about how Oklahoma producers are protecting the air at oerb.com/bothmatter.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and today's guest, Andy Coates. We're really just trying to go through the life of Andy Coates. We haven't gotten very far. We've only got one segment left, and you're just now entering college. So was it a highly recruited prospect at the time? You were a top high school student?
Well,
and golfer.
The Navy had a program called Naval ROTC Regular, and what they had a couple of years earlier, they had to either double the size of the Naval Academy or put out these regular programs. And when you went through one of those, they paid your way through school, gave you $50 a month for spending money, and you were ranked with the Naval Academy guys upon graduation. So that was a big part of my time was spent in that, and I did a lot of work. We raised enough money to build a new fraternity house and did some good things in college. I was not a real strong college student. I was apt to play bridge all night and slip off and play golf occasionally. And when I got selected for Phi Beta Kappa, my sister said it was the worst example she'd ever seen of somebody having their cake and eating it too.
Well, let's move quick. What'd you do after your undergraduate?
Well, I got my commission in the regular Navy and was aboard ship, aboard the Princeton for a while, and then received orders to report to Military Assistance Advisory Group in Taipei, Taiwan. And I went there, and the reason I went there was Percy Buchanan, who was one of my professors, was big on Far East studies, and I did those, and he was the recruiter for the CIA, and I didn't know that. But he tried to get me to do it, and I couldn't because of my naval commitment. And in any event, he showed up one time in Taiwan, and I met him, and I said, "Dr. Buchanan, I'm surprised to see you here." He says, "I'm not surprised to see you here." So he had something to do with getting those orders there, and it was a great time. I think you can understand that I didn't know a hell of a lot more than the Chinese that I was advising, but in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I knew a little bit more than they did, so it was a great time. And I was married at the time. We lived out there and saved up enough money to come back and go to law school.
Yeah, and entered law school. What year was that?
I got back out of the Navy in 1960 and started law school in 60, graduated in 63, and went to work at Kent's firm, Crow and Dunleavy.
So what type of legal work did you do between 63 and into the 70s when you entered public service?
I really, my whole life, all I had ever wanted to do was be a trial lawyer. I was involved in speech contests, and I used to go down to the courthouse and county courthouse and watch lawyers try cases and after school and that sort of thing. So that was what I wanted to do, and I started out working for VP Crow, and who was a wonderful trial lawyer, and Bill Paul and several of the others there that were just outstanding, so I could learn my trade, and started trying the little cases and sitting in big cases with them, and finally began having my own trials. And I've tried a case in most counties in Oklahoma at some time or other around the state, because we have a statewide practice, and I really enjoyed it. I got, I think, pretty good at it, and then I wandered into other things, and I've always been surprised that I did.
Mid-40s, you decide to run for district attorney?
No, what happened to me was David Bourne, Curtis Harris died, and I was president of the county bar, and I was trying to get Jim McKinney appointed. Jim had been a great friend of my family's and was the first assistant, and I thought it was logical to do that, and Boston Smith, who was the governor's lawyer at the time, caught me coming out of court one day and said, "We're not going to appoint anybody that's now in the office, and he wants you to do it." And I said, "Pardon me, who are you talking to?" And he says, "You." I said, "What else? You want me to be a district attorney?" He said, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "Yeah, I can't afford to do that. I mean, that is a real significant financial haircut. Right now I've got kids in school, but I thought about it, and it was springtime, and it was a new challenge, and so I took the job, and it was a wonderful time. I was able to do a lot of good things in the office, do a lot of things for people. As district attorney, I think I spent more time trying not to send people to the penitentiary than I did trying to send them there. Anybody can send them there, but if you can find some way to use the justice system to intercede in their lives at that point, you have the best chance you're ever going to have to change their behavioral patterns. And that was what we tried to do, and did some programs that I thought were really worthwhile. And I just got those started, and my 2 years came out, so I ran for re-election effectively, for reinstatement anyway, and won, spent 2 years there and then left.
All right, and then you entered the United States Senate race.
I did. my timing in life's been a little suspect. Certainly, that race was pretty tough. I found myself. I beat Bob Kerr in Oklahoma, which was an amazing thing. And
the primary.
And then, yeah, we beat the son of our longtime and great senator, who was a fine fella, and he and I got along very well. And but I beat him, and then we ran into the Reagan landslide, which was a hard time to be on that side of the docket. And came back to Crow and Dunleavy, which I was very nice, glad for them to have me back, because I had a lot of debt and I was bloodied and beat up and tattered, but they took me home, and it was a great time.
And a very high-profile case that I know both of you worked on, the University of Oklahoma and University of Georgia against the NCAA, trying to open up television rights for all of the NCAA member schools.
We did, and I had Kent's advice and counsel all through that, which was marvelous, and we were able to took it all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. We learned that NCAA stood for never compromise anything, anytime, because every time we went around, we'd try to settle with them. We were very uncomfortable being out there, and all the big guys, Bob Devaney or DeLos Dodds, all the people from the rest guns would slip up to us and say, well, we're for you, and we hope you win, and we'll send you some money, but you can't use our names. We don't want to be involved in it. And
what's the result of that? That victory, how is the world different today as a result of that case?
It's the shot heard around the world. It had the most enormous impact on college athletics and television of any decision that's ever come down.
That's true.
The reason for the conference realignments, the coaches' salaries, the different funding for all kinds of college sports. I mean, the reason it came about was that all of a sudden the colleges were required to provide equal funding for women's sports as they did for men's sports, and you had one game of the week on television, and Fred Davidson and Bill Banowski at OU and Fred Davidson at Georgia just thought that wasn't fair, and sure out the Supreme Court of the United States said they were right, it wasn't fair, and they weren't going to let it happen, and so we turned it around, and it's changed the world. I don't know what changed it for the better. Justice White said to me at the day of the argument, he said, Mr. Coates, he said, you may win this case today, but you'll regret it. And I guess I don't regret it much, but I think there are those that feel like it's put athletics way beyond where they probably should be in terms of academic education.
We just got a couple of minutes left, but you ran for mayor and won in '83?
I did, ran against Bob McCoy as a council person, and again, I did that at the urging of a number of civic leaders. Most of them disagreed with me after I got in office, as you will understand. But I did, and I enjoyed my time there. It was the worst time in the history of the city, I think. The Penn Square Bank went down, and it was the only bank nationally they allowed just to collapse. And it put businesses into bankruptcy, and it just destroyed the economy. We had an outflow of skilled technicians and people, entrepreneurs. Nobody wanted to be in Oklahoma. It was a hard time, and it was we made some progress toward the end of my time, and I had some ideas about things that I left with the staff when we left. We started the river project, and I got a lot of grief about that. Nobody wanted to spend any money on an old sand river, but I think we have great cities, got to have a great river, and it's come on well. There's nice things that happened, and I enjoyed my time there.
Got about a minute left. How do you want to close out this show?
Well, let me say, I think my favorite Oklahoma poet is a guy named Don Blanding, and he did one that I like a lot. It's called A Grand Time Living. I've had a grand time living, not that it's over yet, seeking, finding, and releasing the things I get. Never too much possessing, never too much possessed. Grateful for all that's come so far, and busting to know the rest.
Very good.
Wow, very appropriate way. And obviously, we're going to have you back on another show sometime down the line.
Well, I'd be happy to. You're very nice to do this, and I've enjoyed it very much.
Andy Coates, a legend in Oklahoma City's history and development. We really appreciate your service and certainly coming on the show.
Thank you for everything you've done and for your friendship over half a century.
My pleasure indeed.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here. I drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, Each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. And but I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and our guest today was Andy Coates.
Yeah, Andy has rendered marvelous service to the citizens of the state of Oklahoma and beyond in a number of positions, any one of which most people that are looking for a star in their career would love to have, but Andy's had multiple stars and he's deserved every one, and we appreciate him being with us today to talk about us and let us honor him for the legacy he has left and is leaving as we keep going.
He is the Dean Emeritus of the OU Law School, and so for website information, that's the website we're giving out. It is www.law.ou.edu. And we have a website. Love for you to visit there and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict or a subject that you'd like to see us discuss. Our website is theverdict.tv. That's theverdict.tv.
We pay attention to it.
We absolutely do. And a big personal experience today for you and I to have Andy on the show. We really appreciate his time.
Indeed.
Hope you enjoyed the show as well. And we'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.